are so excited at LymphaPress to welcome Kathleen Lisson, who has an amazing presentation, so timely, especially for this crazy, they say it's the most wonderful time of the year. Kathleen, I think it's the most stressful time of the year for a lot of people. And oftentimes people don't stop and breathe and take a break. So we are glad that you decided to take a break with the LymphaPress educational webinar series today. For at least the next hour, you're going to hear about meditation, mindfulness, breath work, and how it can help to reduce stress and even how it can relate to your pumping regime. And I know many of you out there either prescribe LymphaPress or recommend it to your patients, or some of you are patients yourselves. Breathing can really help to enhance your pumping experience. So we'll talk about that. But before we go any further, and as you are all logging on for today's presentation, I want to give a proper introduction to Kathleen Lisson. I first became a fan when I saw her name listed as one of the authors of the standard of care for lymphedema in the United States, and got to meet her in person at the AVLS conference this past October, I believe it was. Her work in the community for lymphedema, lipedema is so well respected. Everybody I mentioned that she was going to speak for us said, "Oh, I just love Kathleen." And you know, it's because aside from being so smart and so credentialed, there is this heart of care that she infuses in everything she does. So the formal spiel is this: she holds a Bachelors of Applied Science in Massage Therapy, is board certified in therapeutic massage and bodywork, and is a certified lymphedema therapist. Her very first book, and she's written, I think it's 4, right, was Swollen, Bloated, and Puffy. You gotta love a book with that name. I think I need to go get that right away, as a matter of fact, with all the Christmas cookies I've been eating. And she's also written the Plastic Surgery Recovery Handbook. Everybody who's logging on, please just take a moment and just say, okay, this is me. This is me time, a self-care toolbox, and something that I can also then impart to my patients or use in my own self-care rituals. And it's just so important. So without further ado, Kathleen Lisson, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the title of today's presentation is Breathwork and Mindfulness, Adding to Your Self-Care Toolbox. We will start with some research. I'll share some research, and then we'll go into some breath work and some mindfulness practices. This would be great for us as lymphedema therapists, for our own self-care. And then also, especially, I want to focus on this as a potential self-care tool for our clients. So as Brenda said, I'm a certified lymphedema therapist. I'm also an ACE certified health coach. The goal of today, I want us to experience some simple ways to add mind-body techniques to our self-care toolbox by incorporating breathwork and mindfulness techniques into our pumping routines. So we're going to learn about the health benefits supporting breath work and mindfulness. We're also going to learn about some resources and grounding techniques. And the more I talk about the subject, the more I think that the grounding techniques that we're going to talk about may be the actual most important part of this presentation. So definitely foreshadowing, that's the most exciting part for me. So let's get started. Again, I'm going to invite you to try 3 breathing techniques. We're going to look at diaphragmatic breathing, box breathing, and toning. We're also going to try 3 guided meditations: affectionate breathing, self-compassion meditation, and loving kindness meditation. So first, let's look at some of the research behind breathwork meditation. But before we get started, I want to start by counting our breaths. So I'm going to keep the time on my phone, and I am going to invite everyone, if you want to count the number of times we're individually breathing in 1 minute. So let's start now. So this is 30 seconds to go. And stop. So how many breaths did you have? So think about that. And I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about the first study that I want to present to you. This is Lee et al. 2018. All the studies are going to be cited in the resources, so you can go ahead and look at them online. This study took 60 patients with essential hypertension. So this is high blood pressure, but it's not due to any other illness. They had them rest for 10 minutes and then do an inhale, exhale at either 8 breaths a minute or 16 breaths a minute for 5 minutes. Then they took a 15-minute break, and then they had them do the breathing exercise again, do an inhale, exhale at either 8 breaths a minute or 16 breaths a minute. So what happened in their bodies, whether they were in the 8 breaths a minute group or whether they were in the 16 breaths a minute group? They found, this study is called The Effects of Slow Breathing Rate on Heart Rate Variability. We'll talk about HRV a little bit more after this. And arterial baroreflex sensitivity and essential hypertension. They found that slow breathing, that 8 breaths compared with 16 breaths a minute, actually decreased blood pressure. Slow breathing showed the potential to be a simple and inexpensive method to improve the autonomic balance and increase the baroreflex sensitivity in hypertensive patients. This is important to me because nearly half of adults in the United States, 47% or 116 million adults have hypertension, and they call hypertension the silent killer. So it's something a lot of our clients may potentially have, and it's difficult. The medicines sometimes have side effects, which is a little bit dangerous because if a client doesn't feel anything negative for their hypertension, again, it's a silent killer. And the medicines that we are trying, their physician is trying to have them take have side effects, they might be a little less compliant with taking the medications. So looking into something like breathing rate, something non-pharmaceutical would be great. So I know we're talking about lymphedema and lymphatic diseases. I just wanted to show this as kind of an entrance study to show you that breathing rate, the change in the way that we breathe, can affect our bodies and specifically heart rate variability. So let's learn more about that. Heart rate variability is a measurement of the variation in time in between each heartbeat. It's emerged as an indicator of health and quality of life. If you have high heart rate variability, which means like when you inhale, the heart tends to beat a little faster. When you exhale, the heart beats a little slower. And the fact that the heart isn't beating the exact same, whether you inhale or exhale, that variability is an indicator that your body is healthy. So individuals with that high heart rate variability tend to have better emotional and physical well-being compared to low heart rate variability. So a little bit dive deep in the science. It's directly influenced by breathing and the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is, again, the fluctuation in heart rate corresponding to the breathing. The heart rate increases with exhalation and increases with inhalation and decreases with exhalation. So the low heart rate variability, where it's just the same, whether you're inhaling or exhaling, is less responsiveness to physiological needs. It predicts mortality and morbidity and occurs in depression, anxiety, and chronic stress. So this is a really, it's a great thing that we can affect it non-pharmaceutically just by breathing rates. So now that we've looked at some evidence that says that the way that we breathe, the rate that we breathe can affect our health, let's look at meditation protocols. Can meditation protocols also affect this heart rate variability? So this is a comparative study on the impact of an active meditation protocol versus silence meditation, just like sitting quietly, and the very traditional, like just focusing on the breath meditation. Which one of these may be more effective in reducing that increasing the heart rate variability, making it the more healthy type? So this study had 24 women. They were either in the C group, SEE, or in a control group. So this C protocol is 5 minutes of humming, 5 minutes of breath work where they inhaled for 5 seconds and exhaled for 5 seconds, 5 minutes of focusing on positive emotions, and 5 minutes of focusing on guided imagery for personal goals. So that was where one group spent their 20 minutes of mindfulness, and then the control group spent 20 minutes just that awareness of breath meditation. And so what happened? Interestingly enough, the C protocol resulted in a statistically significant increase in heart rate variability. And the study stated that it provides a strong case to incorporate active practice meditation as compared to just silence due to the positive impact on mood and nervous system. So what I liked about this is one of the complaints, one of the frustrations as a meditation teacher that I would get from students was negative emotions can come up. A lot of people will say, you know what, like meditation just isn't for me. I can't sit still long enough. You know, I have these intrusive thoughts. And this showed that if the individuals are facing some negative emotions during their silence meditation, active practices could be more beneficial to individuals. It may have a positive impact on sleep quality, and it could be a valuable tool for individuals with anxiety and depression. So humming, you didn't come to a webinar for me if you thought you were not going to learn anything new. So let's learn about humming. So I like humming. I incorporate it, and I think that you might be, I invite you to be interested potentially in humming if you're interested in vibration practices, like the vibration plate, anything like that. Humming, not only are we making a sound, but we're vibrating the body. So let's look at a research by Trivedi and Sabu. Evidence on yogic practices, specifically the Bhramari pranayama, which is the humming bee breathing, indicates a possible solution for reducing heart rate, again, increasing heart rate variability, and enhancing lung function in healthy individuals. And if you've been to, like we mentioned, Brenda and I met at AVLS, if you've done, if you've looked at this cutting edge research in lymphatics and vein science and are going to the conferences, you've learned about the impact of nitric oxide. That's something that everyone's kind of looking at and interested in. So I really like that there's emerging evidence of the positive impact of Bhramari due to increased expression of nitric oxide and its impact on oxygen uptake. So these are the first two practices that we learned about. And so I'd like to take a minute and just think about, would you like to try breathing more slowly? Is this something that you could incorporate into your self-care? And would you like to try either humming or a guided meditation? So these are two things that I'm inviting you to think about trying. So let's look at breathing with our diaphragm. So this is, if you've met a CLT, you've learned about your diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle. It's located at the base of the lungs. So it's kind of inside and inside our rib cage. And the peritoneum is the tissue that lines your abdominal wall. It covers all the abdominal organs. So we kind of need to know about the diaphragm and the peritoneum before we can look at this next research study. So this is the Network of Breathing, Multifunctional Role of the Diaphragm article, a review. So this authors stated that the diaphragm has a lymphatic drainage system, which is particularly effective for rapid absorption from the peritoneal cavity and returning it to the vascular system. Several studies aimed at elucidating the pathways of peritoneal fluid reabsorption indicate that the peritoneal surface of the diaphragm is an important site of lymphatic drainage. So this is where me and my two hands as your CLT cannot get in there. I can do some deep abdominal work, but this diaphragm is a beautiful muscle that we can use, each one of us, to help clear the lymphatic fluid from the peritoneal surface, from the peritoneal area, from the abdominal area. This is why we all love talking to you about your diaphragm. The diaphragm is a lymphatic pump, since about 60% of all lymph nodes in the human body are located just under the diaphragm. Shields, in his study, Lymph Glands, and Homeostasis, reported that diaphragmatic breathing stimulates the cleansing of the lymph nodes. It creates a negative pressure when you do the diaphragmatic breathing, pulling the lymph through the lymphatic system. So this is why we love to talk to clients about diaphragmatic breathing so much. And this is my recommendation as a lymphedema therapist when you are pumping, when you're in a lymphatic pump, when you're doing the self-MLD. Don't only use, the muscles in the hand to do the self-MLD. Use your diaphragm muscle to help the lymphatic system from the abdominal area as well. Okay, so just the last piece of this from this wonderful study article: lymphatic absorption firstly depends on the rhythmicity and stretching of the diaphragm. So we're actually using that muscle when we breathe. Then on the intraperitoneal pressure and posture of the individual. These concepts are important because they exemplify how incorrect functionality of the diaphragm can negatively affect the lymphatic system. So we have a diaphragm, let's use it. Okay, so we have talked about our breathing rate. We've talked about our some mindfulness practice, some humming, and we've talked about diaphragmatic breathing, kind of getting you interested in the science behind what I'm going to present when we actually do the mindfulness techniques. And now I want to stand on our 2 feet for a minute and really focus on the truth that sometimes breath work or meditation can be overwhelming to us. If you're either hyper aroused, like you're too much in this fight or flight emotion, or you're dissociated, like you're just feeling like you're out of your body and you're not there, either one of these where we're not regulated and able to function and able to communicate with one another and feeling in our bodies in this particular time. If we're either in fight or flight or we're in freeze, in hyperarousal or hypoarousal, breath work or meditation can feel overwhelming at that point. It's not this all, just take a deep breath, you're going to be fine. We need to acknowledge that some of this can be tough for us, but there are ways that we can work to get ourselves back inside that zone of tolerance where we're, feeling ourselves and feeling most effective, and then do our breath work or meditation from that central point. So here is some grounding and resources for when we feel overwhelmed. And this is kind of what I was foreshadowing before. I feel like this is the most important thing that I've really learned this year in my study, of meditation practices. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're just like our brain's going a mile a minute, we're breathing really shallowly and really fast, we're really frustrated, something's really set us off. These resources can help us get back into that middle zone of tolerance. And then also when we're just feeling like no motivation, we're not really here, we're not really feeling like we're in our body, these resources can also bring us back into our body. So what are some potential resources that you can use? Sight is the first one. If you're in meditation or doing some breath work and you feel like dysregulated, you can keep your eyes open, or you're always invited to keep your eyes open. Also, when you're looking, if your eyes are open, search out the colors of the rainbow in your environment. Like, where is there red? Where is there yellow? Where is there orange? And that way of kind of bringing us back into using our senses and using our body can help regulate us back into that zone of tolerance in the middle. You can also look into the eyes of a pet or a loved one. That can really center and ground me. For sound, we can listen to sounds in the environment. For touch, we can feel our body against the furniture, like feel the weight of your body against the furniture. If you're pumping, you can feel the pump doing its work on your legs or your arm or your torso. You can also take your hands and put them on your thighs and feel the fabric of your thighs and feel your thighs feeling your hands, and then you can feel your hands feeling your thighs, and then you can feel the fabric in between. You can also place your hand, one hand or two hands over your heart. This also really, this is a really good practice for me personally. I invite you to try it. You can also use the fidget toys, the fidget spinners, or anything like hand toy to help kind of, and then focus on the feel of that toy. You know, put the attention into that toy and see if it makes you feel more grounded. And then thoughts, who makes you feel supported? Who is the being that when you think of them, you smile? So for me, it was my dog Turbo or my husband Arun, but there's people all around us that make us feel supported. You can also take some time and think of your happy place. And then when you're thinking of your happy place, like for me, it's the beach on a nice warm day, since I live in San Diego, focus on the feelings generated in your body by the thoughts. So when you're thinking of that person that makes you feel supported, how does that feel in your body when you feel supported, when you're thinking of them? When you're in your happy place, where do you feel that in your body, the feeling of peace in your body? And then these practices, these grounding and these resources can help us when we're overwhelmed to get back into that zone of tolerance. So we'll have these practices in our pocket, and then at any time, if we're going forward or in the rest of your life, especially when we're in the middle of a pandemic, anytime that you feel this hyperarousal or dissociation, if you can, try and use one of those grounding resources and see if it helps you bring back into that, you know, central zone where you feel better. So let's prepare to start our breath work right now. So I just invite you to have a position, either seated or lying down, but the position should be you're relaxed, but you're still alert. And I'd invite you, you can keep your eyes open or you can close them. And I'd invite you to take 2 or 3 deeper breaths. And as you're breathing, we just went through a lot of science, and I'm going to invite you to do some breathwork practice, some meditation practice. And is there anything, what is coming up for you right now? You just had to, you woke up this morning, you went through some of your day, now you're here at this webinar. Is there anything that's coming up for you? And then I invite you to just accept that, to let that be a part of your experience. And then I'll invite you to think about what you want out of this presentation. Why did you come to this webinar today? Why did you click on this YouTube video? What are you hoping to get out of today? Just focus on that for a minute. Okay. And then I'll invite you to open your eyes if they're closed. You can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And let's try some diaphragmatic breathing. So we're going to begin in a relaxed yet alert position. And I'll have you place one hand just right underneath your rib cage. And then breathe in slowly through your nose or your mouth if you can't breathe through your nose, so that your abdomen is moving out against your hands. Your abdomen's kind of pushing out a little bit against your hand because you're breathing. And at the same time, the upper chest should remain as still as possible. It might move a little bit, but we're trying to not have the breath come from here. We're trying to have the breath come from the abdomen area underneath the rib cage. And then when we breathe in, we're going to breathe so the abdomen moves out against our hand, and we're going to breathe out through pursed lips as your belly button is going to move in towards the spine, and you're going to breathe out. So that's where we're going. We're going to try 6 diaphragmatic breaths now, and I'll keep the time. And remember, as always, if it feels overwhelming, to just turn to your resource. So let's start now. And then last one. Okay, so go ahead and open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes. You can stretch if you need to. And I'd invite you to think to yourself, what did you notice about that? Was there anything that you noticed about that practice? And when could you add that to your self-care practices? Luckily, with diaphragmatic breathing, you can do it pretty much anywhere, and no one really notices that you're diaphragmatic breathing. Once you get the idea of breathing in and out and using your diaphragm, you won't even have to put your hands on your abdomen. So let's look at box breathing next. I'll invite you to try box breathing if you'd like. And again, if this feels overwhelming in any way, just turn to those resources that we talked about before. So the box breathing is a 2-second inhale, a 2-second hold, a 2-second exhale, and then a 2-second hold. So I think of it, if you think visually, like you're inhaling for 2 seconds, holding, exhaling for 2 seconds, holding. So it's like you're breathing in a box. That's why they call it box breathing. So we're going to try 8 box breaths now, and I'll keep the time, and then I'll tell you when we're at your last breath. So let's go ahead and start. 2-second inhale, and then hold, exhale, hold, and keep on going. And then last one. Hold, exhale, and then hold. Great. So if your eyes were closed, you can open them, wiggle the fingers and toes, and stretch if you need to. And just, I'd like to go ahead and ask yourself, like, what did you notice about box breathing? And this is a 2-second one. People have done a 3-second box breath, a 4-second box breath. And then just get curious about when could you add that to your self-care practices. Again, this is one that you can do pretty much anywhere and no one really notices you're doing it. I personally like box breathing for when I'm feeling really anxious. That's also what people in the military use it for, focusing them when they're in a high anxiety situation. So now here's the one I love, yay! Toning. I love this. I tried this in a video a couple weeks ago with my friend Peggy, and she really liked it too. So I like toning because it comes to us from ancient medical systems. And then also what I've seen with myself is this breathing and toning vibrates the body. So it's how we can make an internal vibration in our body. So this is the same as humming. So you can just hum, or I like to use the word ram. And then, so what I'll do is we'll do it first. We'll do 3 breaths, take an inhale. And then as we exhale, we're going to hum while our hand is above our belly button. And then this is going to be a lower tone, and then a medium tone is going to be 3 breaths, inhale. And then as we exhale, we're going to hum with our hands over our hearts. We'll really, I invite you to feel the vibration with this. And then 3 breaths while our hands are on our face. And I'll do a couple of different positions. And sometimes when your hands are in different positions, you can feel the vibration in the face. I like to do the toning on the face when I have any kind of like stuffy nose, like my sinuses are full, and vibrating the sinuses when they're full. I find that it brings me a little bit of peace from having a cold. So we'll start, but you don't have to use the word ram. You can use any word, you can just hum. So we'll start with our 3 breaths while our hand is above the belly button. So go ahead and inhale. Ram. Now we'll do it with hand on the heart. And then while the hand is on the face, kind of nasally. And then if you want to, one more with the hand above the belly button. Okay, so that was toning. So go ahead, if you close your eyes, open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, stretch if you need to, and then be thinking about what did you notice about that practice? My friend Peggy said when she was sitting and did the humming when she was with her hand above her belly button, it felt different, that she felt the vibration differently than when she did it when she was lying down. And then also you don't have to have the exact same tone to your hum as I do, because each individual person will have an individual tone that works best for them, because we all are built differently. So what did you notice about the humming, besides like you feel silly the first time you do it? And what would you add that to your self-care practices, like when you were doing the pumping and stuff? And then the other thing you might have seen that I was kind of plugging the ears. If you plug the ears, with a thumb, I can really feel the vibration resonating throughout my face. Okay, so there's some more fun breathing exercises, because I know you love fun breathing exercises, including rib stretch breathing and lower back breathing. They're at this website, and this whole presentation will be available to you afterwards. So you can go ahead and go to that website and try them whenever you'd like. Okay, so let's look at some guided meditations. The first one is called Affectionate Breathing. So let's sample affectionate breathing for 1 minute. I'm going to keep the time. And what we're going to do is I'm going to invite you to take a half smile. And then we're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in and out. And on the inhale, we're going to infuse kindness and affection for ourselves. And then on the exhale, we're going to focus on affection and kindness for others with lymphatic diseases and for the world. So I will keep the time, and we can go ahead and start now. So I invite you to have a half smile on your face. And as you breathe in naturally, focus on having kindness and affection for yourself. And as you exhale, focus on having affection and kindness for others with lymphatic diseases and for the whole world. And then the last breath, affection and kindness for ourselves on the inhale, and affection and kindness for others on the exhale. Okay, so if your eyes were closed, you can go ahead and open them, wiggle your fingers and toes and stretch if you need to, and just be mindful. I invite you to be aware of what you noticed in that practice. Was it easy for you? Was it difficult? This is a very wonderful centering practice that's quick, and it can be done, pretty much anywhere. It can be done when you're waiting in line, when you're in the stoplight, whenever you want to try it. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of a longer practice. This is called self-compassion mindfulness. It's a 2-minute practice. And I invite you, if any of this feels overwhelming, you can always turn to those resources. So we'll be practicing for 2 minutes. You can just be in a posture that's alert yet relaxed. I invite you to keep the eyes open or close the eyes, whichever is better for you. And I'm going to say some phrases in this guided meditation, and you can just breathe comfortably at your own pace. So the practice is going to be about 2 minutes, and we'll start right now. So I'll invite you to take a few deeper breaths. And acknowledge that it's hard to experience this chronic illness of lymphedema or lipedema. It's part of being human. There's nothing wrong with feeling frustrated about lymphedema or lipedema. We're not the only ones. I'll invite you to put your hand on your heart and say something kind to yourself. What would you say to a friend who is struggling with lymphedema or lipedema? Now I'll invite you to take the next few moments to ground yourself, to feel your body against the furniture. If you want to rub your hands against your thighs and feel the fabric, feel the pressure of your body against the furniture, kind of bring yourself back in to the present moment. Okay? And then you can open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, and stretch if you need to. Might need to do some stretching after that one. So I'd invite you to think to yourself, like, what did you notice about this practice? This one can dig really deep for some people. And when is a good time if you wanted to add this to your self-care practices? When would you do a meditation like this? Okay, now let's move into a loving kindness meditation. This is also a 2-minute practice. As always, if it feels overwhelming, I invite you to turn to those resources. It's going to take about 2 minutes. I'll invite you to be in that alert yet relaxed posture. I invite you to keep your eyes open, or you can close them if that's easier for you. And I will keep the time for us. It'll be about 2 minutes. We can start by taking a few deeper breaths. And as we're breathing, let's think of a being that is easy to love. Someone that's easy to love. It can be a pet, it can be a loved one, it can be a mentor, someone you really admire. And we're going to say the statements to them, focus these statements for them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. And may you have ease of being. So I invite you to breathe at whatever is comfortable for you, and then just focus on saying these statements silently for a being that's easy to love. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. And may you have ease of being. Now I'm going to invite you to say the statements for yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. And may I have ease of being. I invite you to repeat them silently for yourself. Okay. So we can come out of that meditation, open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, stretch if you need to, and notice what you notice. What do you notice about doing that practice? And when could you add that to your self-care practices? A loving kindness meditation. So if you want to practice in the future, you can add the third part. This meditation can be as short or long as you want. And you can also have a section where you say, may all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe. And may all beings have ease of being. Okay, so let's close the mindfulness portion of this webinar with another mindful moment. So I'd invite you to take a position that's relaxed yet alert. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open. And just take a few deeper breaths. And as you're breathing, I invite you to just see what's coming up for you, what's here right now. We just went through some science, we went through some meditation practices. You have the rest of your day ahead of you. What is here for you now? And what is coming up? And I invite you to allow that to be here. Is it okay for it to be here? Then I invite you to think again why you came here. Why did you come to the webinar? Why did you press play on the YouTube video? What did you want to learn? And how do you feel about the experience that you had? Okay, so I invite you to open your eyes if they're closed, wiggle your fingers and toes. Thank you very much for coming through some of the mindfulness with me, with all of us. Here are some more resources. There's guided meditations. I love Kristen Neff's guided meditation, Dr. Kristen Neff. Also, the local UCSD here in San Diego Center for Integrative Health has guided meditations. I like apps on the phone. So there's several apps on your phone that will help you with the mindfulness and with the breathing. There's one called I Breathe. I Chill is from the Trauma Resource Institute. There's Mindfulness Coach from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and UCLA Mindful from their Mindful Awareness Research Center. And they all have resources. I especially like the I Breathe one because it shows you when you just open the app, it will have a visual representation of the breathing that you want to do. And either you can turn the sound down and just watch the screen in order to do some guided breathing, or you can put headphones in and not have to watch the screen. But either way, this is an opportunity for you to do some breath work in public where no one really knows what you're doing. And here are my two presentations that I've done for mindfulness that are also on YouTube. And then I just like to close with inviting you to notice on this excellent number scale from a 0 to 10, how confident are you that you can add one of these mindfulness or breathwork practices into your self-care routine? So this is just something that you can use to hopefully inspire yourself to try these in your everyday life, and especially when you are pumping. And then there are my resources, and I am all set.
I have to say this was the most unique, and I learned so much from every webinar we do, but this time I actually felt something. And I thank you so much, Kathleen, for bringing your expertise to all of us today. And I know that many people have questions. Some things came up in chat. Let me just say this from the get-go. Yeah. LymphaPress is so proud to sponsor something like this because, yes, we are the world leaders in pneumatic compression. And you know that we provide pumps to patients with lymphedema, CVI, lipedema. But we also understand that we're dealing with the whole person. Yeah. And we care about the whole person. And so having these tools in your toolbox can help to make your life better. And that's what our tagline is, because life can be better. So thank you for that. And can I just throw some questions at you that came in?
Yes, because I can't see the chat right now. So
well, I will tell you, one person, when we were doing the first diaphragmatic breathing, said that sometimes she gets dizzy and her patients get dizzy. Is this something you press through, or should you stop when that happens?
No, you should not. We have to know our own body. So just, we have to play around with that when, and that, eventually, if it's a real issue, it could be something that you want to go to the physical therapist to see, is there a problem with the diaphragm? But usually it's like breathing too deeply and too fast can absolutely make you dizzy. So you have to focus on your own body and your own needs at that day and do the diaphragmatic breathing that keeps you healthy, but it's nothing that you should ever push through. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Lung capacities. So absolutely.
That's true. Yeah. So what about the purpose of the holding?
For the box breathing. Yeah, it's helping with that heart rate variability. So just playing around with holding the breath and then exhaling it, it's just another way to get us to slow down our total breathing.
So when you started this presentation and you asked us for that 1 minute to count our breaths, some of us weighed in with how much. There was 12, there was 14, there was 16. Yeah. Is there an average?
It's up there, right? Yeah. So it's an invitation to see how can we breathe more deeply. Are we under stress? Because when we're under stress, we're going to breathe faster and shallower, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then but when you're really relaxed, like you could take the test again, like look at at a time when you're really relaxed and the breathing will be very slow. Like when we're sleeping, when you see that baby peacefully sleeping, the breathing is so nice and slow.
Oh, so true. I want to go to there, as Tina Fey would say in 30 Rock. Here's a very practical question from Chantel Barnes. How do we bill for these services if we're using them for patients?
As far as breath work, I don't know if insurance will bill for breath work. It should be part of how we're teaching. I mean, for diaphragmatic breathing, we teach diaphragmatic breathing as part of the lymphedema, like when we're doing our MLD, like that's when I teach clients diaphragmatic breathing is because in the abdomen sequence, I'm asking them to breathe diaphragmatically 8 times.
So Marilyn Lee just posted in chat, for OTs and PTs, it could go under therapeutic exercise, I suppose that would be.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Marilyn. That's excellent. By the way, thank you to everybody who took time out, because here's the thing. We all say, I don't have time for this. Look at my to-do list. I don't have time to stop and breathe. And this today sort of forced us to do it. Yeah. So is it just a matter of creating a new habit in our lives?
And an extra, like adding something in those times when we're kind of not doing anything. Like when you're at a stoplight, you don't have to, I wouldn't say to everyone, oh, like now you have to find 20 minutes out of your day and you have to sit down and somehow, no one can bother you. Like we have to work with the lives that we have. And if it's waiting in the grocery line, like anytime you would pick up your phone and just scroll, like that's a time in your day that you can instead look around and focus on what's happening and be in your body right now. The biggest value that I've found this year and then the last 2 years is like I already have a seated formal practice, but in taking these out during the day, because I'm much more in the past 2 years, I'm feeling a lot more anxiety. I'm feeling a lot more hyperarousal. And sometimes the proper time to do these exercises and grounding and breath work is like after I'm watching the news at night, because it's getting real personal, right? So I think that a great first step would be to focus on the feelings in your body and know when you're going into that hyperarousal. And then, because for me, it's like I could be a normal, nice, wonderful person to my husband. And then like, there's some times when like, no, if he walks into the room, I'm already, it's going to be a fight, like whatever he says, I don't like it. And then to be able to know when I'm there and put myself back into the zone of tolerance from being hyper aroused is being a better wife to my husband, a better, friend to my friends, a better therapist to my clients. So sprinkling in during the day and making sure I spend more time in that optimal zone of tolerance where I'm not like dissociated and totally checked out and I'm not just freaking out is going to make me a better human being. So that when I put it in that perspective, it's worth it to me to take the time.
So it's sort of heading it off at the pass, being aware before it becomes a full-blown freak out, and saying, this is the time before it builds momentum to stop, to breathe.
Yeah. So. And, recognize, because your body is going to give you signals, whether it's like, do I feel like a crunch here? Is my neck, is my shoulders up here? And at that point, before we actually like take it out on someone else, like we can use the grounding resources, use the breathing to kind of get into a better place where we can have a conversation instead of like an argument.
A lot of the people that are on are nodding their heads and saying thank you. Kathy Plavkin says, we love Kathleen Lisson and her work. So there's a lot of that out there. Megan Bream, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name properly, the Superhuman app, she says, has a free 14-day trial and includes meditations for walking, cleaning, getting ready for the day, and that would fall into active meditation. So that's another great tip. I want to talk before we run out of time about this mental space, though, and speaking kindly to ourselves. One of my favorite authors is Louise Hay, and she has said, you've been criticizing for yourself for years. Why not try approving of yourself and seeing how that works out for you? And I always try to check the real estate between my ears and say, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? Because that adds to your anxiety as well. Do you have to train your brain to think kind thoughts?
Yes. Yep. It's called, the technical term is the inner critic. And the inner critic, there's definitely some work you can do with self-compassion meditation. That link from Dr. Kristen Neff would be a great resource for anyone who has that inner critic. It's the person that's just running you ragged. The inside voice that is telling you things that you would never let anyone tell your friend. So if your friend, messed up or was late to work, you wouldn't, if someone else criticized them the way you criticize yourself, you would like be on that person for like a ton of bricks. But somehow for ourselves, we get this mistaken impression that that's the only way that we can motivate ourselves to perform is to just, I'm not going to let anyone else criticize me because I'm going to be there criticizing myself. So it never happens for anyone else. And it's not productive. At the end of the day, there's solid research that self-compassion makes us more motivated, and we actually complete more, we complete our tasks, we achieve our goals better with self-compassion than with the inner critic.
Well, it's so true. I mean, when I have a boss that appreciates what I do well and coaches me to better performance rather than criticizing me, I want to do more and better to achieve what that goal is that they set for me. So yeah, that would make sense that it would work best for myself too. It's something that I try to practice, but I think we all can fall into this inner critic, the self-loathing, and let's kick that to the curb. Let's give ourselves a holiday gift this year and kick that to the curb and practice some self-love. And that means that we'll have something to give to everybody else too. I loved this webinar. Are there any final words you'd like to leave our audience with, Kathleen?
Yep, I'd just like to echo the statement of my colleague, Paula Donahue. We were talking about this presentation and she said, you know what, if anything really is coming up for any of the clients, some serious thoughts, some real anxiety with taking this baby step into mindfulness, it's a really good signal that this might be a great time to get professional mental health help. Because this is your body telling you, you know, it's open to actually getting a positive benefit from mental health help. So there's no shame in that whatsoever. So if this is not, you know, brightening your soul and opening you up, that might be an option to look into, definitely. And then there's the apps. And then if you feel like you have questions, another step to take might be to get a meditation teacher or get a live Sangha, like a meditation group, if they're open again in your community, and a lot of them are online, but just to get some more formal training in meditation, if this is really, you know, like lighting your soul on fire and you really think like this is what is going to bring you forward, you know, into 2022 and make you flourish.
That's what we want for everybody, to flourish, that your lives would be better. And I want to thank you for your time. We hope we get the chance to work with you again, Kathleen Lisson. And for everybody that joined us today, thank you so much. If LymphaPress can ever be of service to you, we would love to help. Please feel free to email me, bviola@lymphapress.com. I forgot my email address there for a minute. We wish you all the happiest of holidays. Whatever you celebrate may be filled with lots of love, and especially love for yourself. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.